The Client Manager in TaxCycle is a robust tool designed to provide immediate access to your client files and allow real-time monitoring with instant status updates for any changes made. I am going to talk in detail about how to set up your Client Manager and how you can apply it in your practice. You can open up Options dialog box by clicking the Options button on the left blue sidebar, or if you're like me, I have pinned Options button to my quick access toolbar at the top. So I am just going to open that up. If I come down to the Client Manager section of my tax cycle options, this is the Client Manager overview. At the moment, you can see that this computer is not set up as Client Manager server. For the best setup, we recommend installing the Client Manager server on your file server, whether it is centralized server for a larger office or dedicated machine for a smaller one. This lets it run in the background all the time, keeping an eye on your tax returns for any changes. It does not need someone logged in to work, and it updates the database when there are status changes. If your files are on a network storage device, install the Client Manager on another office computer. It can still check and update the database for those files on the storage device. For the simplicity of today's demonstration, I am simply going to use my machine as my Client Manager server. At the moment, I am going to click on Make Changes to my Options profile so that I can start editing my Office Options profile here. We will come and use a setup wizard a bit later, but I'm going to talk about what each section here means actually. So the status of the Client Manager, essentially we know this computer is not set up as a Client Manager server. Once you have a Client Manager up and running, you can have all your machines on the network point to it. And that Client Manager server does all the heavy lifting for you and connects to a server on your network. If we click on Discover Servers on your network, this will tell TaxCycle, please go find all the other machines in the office that actually have a Client Manager server running. And this is particularly handy if you install one, two, or X number of workstations into your network. You can go and have them discover where your Client Manager server is, and we can automatically connect. We won't be doing that in this video because I will be running the setup wizard so we can get through each individual step and fine tune how we want Client Manager set up on this machine. And lastly, we have some general options down here. First of all, Client Manager is enabled. On the left hand side, we can see Client Manager, and if I turn this box off, the Client Manager on the left hand side goes away, and it will not bother you. It will not get the search bar on the tax cycle. If you use your own mechanism for managing your tax returns, it's perfectly fine, and by doing so, you can tell tax cycle that I am not interested in using client management. Please turn off. However, for today's video, we are using Client Manager, so I will check this box off, and let's talk about few of these other options now. We had some feedback on these general options. By default, if you press F3 button in TaxCycle, it will open Client Manager. Early on, if you are preparing returns and you inadvertently hit F3 key on the keyboard instead of perhaps student override or open fast find, which is there for you, you would open up Client Manager, and that could take several seconds away from what you are doing. We can certainly alter that behavior by not allowing F3 to open Client Manager. By default, you are in Client Manager search box and you push enter. TaxCycle runs a full search for you. So that is also something that you can turn that off if you want to. And lastly, we have batch operations options down here. Whether or not you actually allow Client Manager to do batch carry forwards and batch transmission, that is something you would like to select here. Now let's scroll up and start the setup wizard. What is setup wizard? The setup wizard is basically a way for you to either connect to an existing server on your network or set up this machine as a server. So let's click on this link here and set this up as a server. We can give our client server a name. When we click discover and we want to find where it is on the network, this is the name that will be presented. I am going to give it more relevant name. So let's say Office Tax Cycle Server. This name can be anything you want. We would also have another option here. If you work alone or travel a lot, you may want to create Client Manager as a standalone server. By default, when we set up the Client Manager as not private, it is available to all machines on your network. If we simply check this box here, now the Client Manager will not be available to anyone else on my work network and will only available to me on this machine. But because I want Client Manager to available to everyone here in the office, so I will just keep this box unchecked and I can click on next. The next part we want to talk about is where do I keep my tax files? Click on Add Folder to add a folder that has all your tax returns, files, and the one you want Client Manager Server to monitor. Now, by default, this computer's name starts with XLW, and this is the network path we want to add, and we can go ahead and click on Select Folder. My tax returns are now available to everyone on my network. They are available to people or the preparers on my network, and the client manager indexes those tax returns. When someone runs a search, these tax returns will appear in a search result depending on the filters they apply in quick search. We highly recommend that you really need to have a public location for your tax returns. If I add another folder, let's say from my OneDrive. So from here, let's select the folder from OneDrive and we will click on select folder. Now the wizard has detected that I keep tax returns in my OneDrive folder and this file on my OneDrive is available only on this machine. It is not actually available to any other of my preparers in the office. So therefore, it's bit pointless to have client manager watch, monitor, and update the status of returns because it's not actually available to anyone else. Now, if I go back and make this server as private and then click next, you can see that my OneDrive folder is fine because we know that Client Manager will not be serving search results to anyone else on the network. And now let's go back and deselect this because I want to make this public and we'll click on next. And again, the wizard has detected that this folder is not publicly available to anyone on my network. You really don't want to have this as a part of the monitored folder, so we can go ahead and remove this folder. We can add and remove as many folders as we wish to get this just right. So in the right hand column here, we have this header called subfolder. And what we are telling Client Manager is that my tax cycle file folder, I also want Client Manager to look inside of these subfolders because that's where my actual returns are. And that's quite handy because I don't need to go and add separate folders for 2012, 13, or etc. down to 2024. I can just point it at the root of this folder and then select Client Manager, this folder, and any subfolder. If there is a tax returns in there, I want to know about them when they get changed, when they get saved. So anyone in the office, when they run a search, will get the most current view of this tax return. Now let's click on next. I am going to start indexing the tax return. After clicking start, the client manager server is informed about the shared folders containing the tax returns for the office. This triggers an indexing process where the server reads the returns without making changes, a read-only operation. It is all done. Our tax cycle server is ready and this computer has successfully been set up as a tax cycle server. So we can click on finish and we are all done here. One thing to note here is that if you are using options profile, which I have been using since starting Office options profile, so here something that's really neat about using options profile is that I have set up my server and I have told this machine that this is where the server is located. And because that option is kept in an options profile, anybody else on my network who is using my options profile is now automatically connected to this client manager server as well. You don't need to go to everyone's desk and do it one by one. If they share the same options profile, as soon as you update the client manager server, every machine that uses that options profile is also automatically updated. So it saves a bunch of administration and overhead there, so you don't have to go through each individual machine. The client manager status is now running, indicated by green status. After completing the setup wizard, I will quickly proceed to build an index. The monitored folders section shows the client manager server monitoring the tax cycle files folder set up earlier here. The client manager service running as the NT authority system operates as a background service. It does not need you to be logged in, allowing for continuous operation. We can click OK here to confirm the setup, and we can also click on now discover server on your network, and the client manager will monitor all the clients that you have within your database, and including the individual tax returns number as well that you can see right in here. Next thing that we want to look into is detailed configuration options. So we can click on open detailed configuration options right in here, and it is noted that client manager runs using system account, allowing options to stop, restart, or remove the services. There are additional options that you can make changes to. To do that, you would like to first click on stop, and then you can make the changes to the options that you see below. Those options include changing the server name, setting it to a private or standalone server, and configuring an overnight database indexing as well. Now we will just simply click OK, and we will also click on apply and then OK. Now the client manager is running on this machine, having indexed all the tax returns in the designated folder ready for search. After configuring Client Manager Server, you can instantly access your client's files. You can access Client Manager from left blue sidebar here, and in Client Manager you can utilize the search box to find specific clients or files, whether you are searching by name, number, or any specific form like T2125. The search function helps you quickly locate the file you need. The search results appear in table format, providing you a clear overview of the matching files. Additionally, you will find a preview of selected file at the bottom of the screen, giving you a clear and quick glimpse into the file content. You have the option to switch to a client view as well from the top right hand side, which offers a more comprehensive preview of the file. In this view, you will not only see the main client files details, but also related files for their spouse and dependent, plus you will have access to some status information about the returns. So it is that simple to set up Client Manager and have instant access to your client's files.